Okay, say we are live, friend. All right. Hey, y'all.
Good morning.
Coming to you on this good Thursday, October 24th. I am your girl, Cristal, the inclusion lady. And as you know, I like to bring to you guys and girls conversations about real life and things that kind of fit under the bucket of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this topic today is about forgiveness. It is a topic that I love to hate. And I think through my healing, it's always best to heal in a community and heal with other people who are on the journey or who have been either mastering it themselves. Hence, the person I am bringing today to speak with us is my girl, Angerrilynn. We call her Bay as well. But I've had the extreme pleasure of having really deep conversations with her. And she's full of wisdom and so many jewels. I just knew that I wanted to share her, with everybody because I know that you'll be able to get something out of it for yourself. So, without further ado, please welcome Miss Angerrilynn. Hey, girl.
Hey. Good evening, everyone. Before we start here, thank you so much for joining.
No, thank you for being here too. How are you feeling today?
I'm good. I had a
Yeah.
full work day. I'm good. I'm ready for tonight. I'm excited.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, let's talk. You know how we normally do our we do our coffee chat talks and
Exactly.
um forgiveness, right? So my interpretation of forgiveness, up until this point, I always thought it was all right, I'm just going to forget about what something has, what someone has done to me and just kind of just treat them with kindness and just don't think about the situation anymore and just love them no matter what. But I always had a hard freaking time with that because I don't know if it's the Sagittarius in me or not, but like when my fire is ignited inside of me, it's hard to cool it down. And every time I look at that person, I want to spit fire. So I don't know how to deal with it if that's the definition of forgiveness, right? Um, I would love to know like what was or is your interpretation of forgiveness?
So my interpretation of forgiveness, I think, has pretty much always been the same, right? So I'm a pretty chill personality, right? But what I do know is I know that forgiveness is not necessarily for the person that did something to us or that hurt us. Forgiveness is really for ourselves, right? We've all been hurt in certain situations. A lot of us carry that hurt, carry that anger. I know I shared a quote with you the other day. I said, anger is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die, right?
Right.
So, what I get from that is there's really no point in me being angry, right? There's no point in me being angry because it does nothing for me. It basically, what I know is that it occupies space, unnecessary space.
Mm,
We start to carry a heavier weight than what is really necessary because we're carrying what someone has done to us, how someone hurt us. And something I also say, like a broken record, is that the things that people do to us really don't have anything to do with us. It's really what they got going on that is, pretty much dumped on someone else just in the moment. A
mm,
lot of times, even if someone hurt us, they might not really mean it or mean it in the way that you perceived it.
mm,
But ultimately, again, forgiveness is for us, it's not for that person. Oftentimes, people will think, well, if I'm going to forgive them, or even think about forgiving someone that hurt me, then I'm giving them something, or I'm saying it's okay what they did, and it's not that at all. It's just the opposite. Doesn't mean that it's okay. Doesn't mean that you agree with it. And you're not giving that person anything. You're actually giving yourself peace, a healthier being. Because if you're carrying that with you, that anger, that resentment, what kind of quality of life are you living on a
Mm,
day-to-day basis
mm,
based on something that someone else has done?
mm-hmm,
Yeah, in a nutshell, that's what forgiveness, me is for me.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm not willing to carry that weight. I'm not willing to carry someone else's weight.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So interesting because I would always hear that, forgiveness is for me and not the other person. And I did hear that quote about, you drinking the poison, waiting for someone else to die. And for a long time, I still didn't get that. It was just like, you know what? I don't care. Like, when you see me, I have smoke for you, every time to make you remember that you violated me in such a way that I don't appreciate. And to me, my holding the anger was my way of holding them accountable to what they have done, you know. I don't know, what are your thoughts about that?
So that person hasn't forgotten. That person has not forgotten what they've done. They may not know how they hurt you in that moment unless you've actually expressed that to them, either in that moment or maybe later on down the line. But once you remind that person one times, two times, over and over again, how does that help you? What does that do for you? Because you're still, when you're done, you still carrying that weight, aren't you? Because you're still angry. You waiting on the next time for that person to show up
Yeah.
to remind them again. There, you carrying that baggage,
Mm,
and you taking it with you from one moment to the next, and that's so unhealthy.
that's
You
true.
know, yeah, it's
That's true.
unfair to yourself.
Mm.
Yeah, that's unfair
Um,
to you.
let's think of, okay, and this is all good, conceptually, right?
Yeah.
So, what about, those mothers who have lost their sons to like police brutality, or even so, because I am learning this journey of forgiveness, especially when it comes to like systemic oppression, right? Me, I have a lot of anger as it relates to the justice system and how things are done here in this country. Or if there's like racists, right? I don't take lightly to racism or anyone who is deliberately practicing racism and don't care about it. I have a very hard time forgiving that type of person. And I also imagine, again, like a mom of George Floyd, or someone having to forgive the murderer. So like how, like, because I just think there's magnitudes of violation, right? Even trying to forgive someone who's violated you sexually. Um, like, how does that even work? Technical difficulties, where we at?
That is a very
Okay.
good question, especially to someone like myself. Yeah, that's a very good question, especially to someone like myself. For me, it's kind of a double-edged sword, and I'll explain.
Okay.
On one side of that sword, I have family members that are retired police, lieutenants, officers, etc.
Yeah.
On the other side of that sword, I'm a mother of a son.
Yeah.
So I don't have, there's no words. I couldn't imagine. I could not imagine such a journey. Um, But I
Mm.
know that I have a different, yeah, I know that I have a different perspective than most because um, I have a mother that is a retired police lieutenant. I don't have that same, I don't have that same perspective that a lot of people do. I'm not blind to the things that have occurred. It blows my mind that this day and age, we're in 2024, that we are still experiencing the police brutality and the racism and it blows my mind. So forgiveness in that aspect, in that situation, as any challenge, right?
Yeah.
um yeah. So we have to start. I'm not a super religious person, but I am spiritual. I have my own relationship with God. I
Yeah.
do. So it comes down to having those conversations with God.
Mm.
It really does, because I feel like you have to seek a much higher power than ourselves. We already have the challenge of, what is forgiveness? Is this really for me? But what about the other person and what they did?
Right.
We already have that challenge. Now we have even this on a higher level, the situation that you just explained. So, yeah, at this point, I have to have those conversations with God. And, I just doing my own research on forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
something came up very important, is that, they say God forgives us, right? If you believe in God, God forgives us for any and all things that we do. That's my belief.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do we become a higher power than Him that we cannot do the same
Mm-hmm.
in our life? I know, I know, I know, I know. But regardless of the situation, so first of all, we already have the hurt of losing a child
Right.
in that situation, a situation where police officers have killed our child. So we have to work through that
Yeah.
already. Um, Remember I said I'm not willing to carry somebody else's weight?
Yeah.
I can't, especially in that situation. And I know it's easier said than done. I have never been in that situation, and I thank God for that. But I can't, I'm not willing to carry that weight in addition to the devastation and hurt that I already have to work through for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
That's a lot. So for me to pile on to that, for me to be willing to add to that
Yeah.
grief. So I got grief, and then I got anger.
Right.
I've decided to throw out forgiveness in situations like that, right?
Yeah.
Most of us probably would. But again, I'm still going to stick to, I'm not willing to carry someone else's weight. Those, it's such a, whew, it's such a tough topic.
Yeah.
I still believe that what ultimately happens has nothing to do with the victim outside of their color. I have to agree. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't experienced a lot of racism in my
Mhm.
life, believe it or not. Um, but again, I'm not willing to. That's a lot. I'm not willing to
Yeah.
pile on to my grief. You know what I mean?
Which makes sense. It is there's because what I'm hearing is like, regardless of what the situation is, the principle still stays the same. You continue to cleanse yourself and not carry the weight of anger regardless of what it is. And that is a commitment, I think. And I love how you brought God into the situation, because I really believe, like, as a human being in my flesh, there is no way that I can actually probably agree to commit to something like this. And it would have to take a different and a larger power inside of me to lean on in order to get that strength. Because, I think it's easier to forgive someone, and it's a one off situation, like you've done something to me once. But if you are, and I speak in terms of like racism as a whole body, um, it's happening every day. So it's like, how do you continuously forgive someone or a group or whatever or entity that continues to slay you every single day? Like, that is a strong power to fight against or mitigate. Let me read this comment from Jermaine Ellis. And I'm sorry, y'all, I'm squinting. I don't feel like finding my glasses. And I'm in denial most of the time that I can't see. So Jermaine says most of the time, the offending person is living their life and is usually more of a burden on the offended, not the offender. Yeah, they say that, they're off living their lives or whatever, so they don't even know. But I'm going to tell you like an experience that I have, and is why I continue to hold the anger. Not that it's a right thing to do. It's so, like, my dad and I, we have like a very tumultuous relationship. It's very on and off. I don't like a lot of his beliefs and how he lives his life. And I'm sure that he thinks the same way about me. Maybe, maybe not. Um, but he does like some crazy stuff to me, like as I would hold a parent, like what the hell are you thinking as a parent? Um, so with that being said, we'll go on the hiatus, and then I'd just be like, F him. And I'll be, in family gatherings, and I, ignore the hell out of him like he doesn't exist. Or I may just say some old ruthless ass shit to him. Um, and then I will hold that grudge for like, it'll be years before I speak to him again. Now, when you all say, well, that person's living their life and, they're not thinking about you, I know that he's thinking about me. And I know that my anger bothers him. So it has become like a manipulation tactic, to hold myself in the anger every time so that I hurt him back. Um, so yeah, I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do. But I just think that my logic says in some instances they're not actually living their lives. Like, they are kind of thinking about the guilt of, what they've done to the person, especially as I continue to hold the anger.
Hmm.
I said a lot. So there's that, plus the, when someone is violating you every day, like, how the hell are you forgiving that?
I'm sure, like again, in the moment, it's difficult. You can't just tell someone, "Oh, forgive them," and sit back and wait for them to do it again, right? So
Yeah.
in that aspect, it does sound like you're saying, "Well, it's okay," you know. But again, we're not saying that any of it's okay. Um, I feel like forgiveness is more of an after uh, an 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 after healing exercise. You know what I mean? For lack
What
of
does that
better,
mean?
meaning in the moment. Because I could sit here and think of a lot of situations where um, I wouldn't dare say, just forgive the person, for what they're doing to you. Um, so in the moment, it's very difficult, but I feel like forgiveness, especially when you speak about every single day, um, I feel like in situations like that, it's more of it's more of a healing process once you've, let's say, stepped out of the situation. Um, Real quick, something that came to my mind, which relates to what I'm saying, is while you were talking, we can always decide whether or not to keep that person in our lives or not, right? I'm one of those people. I have a very low tolerance for things that people do,
Yeah,
you know, and of course, it kind of depends on who it is and my relationship with that person. But I have a choice whether to allow that person to continue to hurt me
yeah,
or not.
true that.
The not part of that is to eliminate them from my life. More than likely, that's my solution to stopping them from hurting me.
Mm,
But I do
understood.
have but I do have a situation where I feel like someone did something to me and I wasn't going to stop. They were not going to be out of my life, but I realized that the relationship was way more important than what actually happened and what was done.
Mm,
So in that case, I let it go. I did. It was a forgiveness. I healed from it on my own.
mm.
You know.
We have some comments here I want to read. Well, Gina G, she says, I will hold a grudge for years. It all depends what the person did to me. Yeah, that's me too. Same here. Same here. And they always say, the grudges aren't good. And I understand why now. Because it actually, every time you think about the person, it does bring up this negative energy and it's happening inside of our bodies, right? So I understand why I don't want to keep doing that. Um, are you able to see this, Bay, the
Let me try
comments?
and read it. Sure.
Okay, because I'm squinting way too hard.
All right. All right. So I believe it's Dana. Dana
Yep.
says, I think you have to consider how much power you want to give to others. The
Mm,
longer you hold on to these feelings of anger and frustration, to the longer you allow those people to traumatize and injure your spirit, then you have the effects of that stress on your physical body. It
yeah.
shortens your lifespan and impairs your quality of life, increase your risks of stroke, heart attack, and run the risk of those emotions affecting your other relationships with those close to you. Dana, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, you did.
And I don't think
Yeah.
people realize that anger, that resentment from something that someone's done to us, also relating to all that weight that you're willing to carry because you're so
Mhm.
angry. I don't think people realize that it is unhealthy. Like it is really unhealthy. Stress is a killer. So my question to you is like, if you're still holding a grudge, are you able to heal from
Mm,
what was done? Or are you still hurting? Are you still, doesn't mean forget rather. But if you're willing to still hold a grudge, are you willing to heal yourself?
ooh, you got a point
When do
there.
you decide that enough is enough? When do you decide to stop suffering at the hands of someone else?
Mm, mm. I would pose that to you too, Gina. Yeah, that was a good question. I mean, honestly, you're right. It's if we had to choose the dichotomy between healing and hurt, the holding the grudge is definitely part of the hurt side and not the healing of it. And I forget about this word healing all the time. So you're right about that. And Dana, thank you for offering up your wisdom because you definitely hit it up on the head. Seriously. And then we got Bird. Can you read this one too?
Hey, Bird. Yes. So she has a question. This is from Daquita. I have a question, and Crystal. So, with that, have you actually sat down and had a heart to heart conversation with him? She's talking about your dad. I mean, because that's a lot, that's a whole lot, especially for someone that made you, but you have that type of anger and unforgiveness. And who knows, it could be something so petty that you all have never, ever just thought to sit down and talk about it. But it would turn out to be something that you both laugh about a lot, and that's a lot to carry. Thank you, Bert.
To answer your question, yes. I've had several conversations. I am the one who has initiated the relationship with my dad. Was about, I remember writing him a letter and I was 16. And then I ended up calling him when I was 27 and, just reaching out to tell him how I felt. Um, and I've done it even recently because it's been a consistent on and off relationship. Um, Up until like during COVID 2020, I told him like, hey, I don't even think you like me because I'm a black woman. He dates interracially. So like I've opened up about the pains that I, carried with me, and everything will be all good. And it's just like, we'll never do that again. And it'll be a family contract and we won't do this. And then here we go again with some fuck shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the whole violation, he'll violate me in a whole different way, even through other people, or letting other people violate me, you know. So it's like we go right back to square one. So like I don't know what to do with that. At this point in 2024, I've just kind of labeled it as this is a toxic relationship, and I am on the journey of forgiveness, with him being like the number one big fish. And I am willing to forgive him. I thought I'd forgiven him before, but like as soon as he does like a pin drop or some shit, I'm going to the gutter. So this is another question that I used to have. It was like, yo, I thought I'd forgiven him. We were good. We were laughing. We were like over here, talking shit like we normally do. So why, when he does something else, that I'm ready to go at his head again? I thought I forgiven him. So yeah, I think it's up until now where I'm just kind of figure out like maybe I had the wrong definition of what forgiveness is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, when it comes down to specific people and their personalities, right? So you already know what you're dealing with.
yeah,
No, there's especially when it comes to parents.
yeah,
um we're not going to change them, right?
yeah.
But once you know what you're dealing with, you have to figure out how to maneuver, move, and um you have to figure out what type of space you're willing to allow them to occupy. And really that's anybody, but specifically parents, because I mean they're our parents. They're people that birthed us, and we tend to hold them, or we tend to have the highest respect for them, right? Because they're our parents, or at least that's the way it's supposed to be, right? But again, my thing is like once you know how someone is, you can't change them. You know what you're dealing with, and you have to figure out again what kind of space you're willing to allow them to occupy in your life.
Mm,
Means
mm.
you all can still have a relationship, but it just depends on what type of relationship that you have.
Right,
Yeah, you can start to heal, you can start to forgive, and you have to figure out the best way for you to do that. But you're allowing him to continuously hurt you over and over again. You already know he's gonna do the same thing. This
yeah.
ain't nothing new.
I think that's where I will own my stuff. Like I'm in complete ownership of setting expectations And, normally what trails along with expectation is disappointment. And
Exactly.
there's this la la land of just like, this is how someone should be, which is usually a trap anyways when we're saying should, because it's a wishful thinking, instead of looking at what's right in front of us, right? So I think in this stage of my life, because we're both getting older, him and I have to do something different and present myself in a different way. And I've accepted finally, like, okay, I'm accepting that this person is never going to be the parent that I need them to be. And, I have to go through a whole process there, like a grieving process of that idea of a person. So I think grief definitely is connected with this
Hmm.
forgiveness too. Um, but I am going to switch gears. And everyone who's listening right now, continue to drop your comments, because this is a collective and inclusive conversation. But I want to also ask you about this, because even in my grieving this idea of this person, I'm also allowing myself to forgive myself for having the idea, right? Putting myself through the pain of putting unrealistic expectations on people. What would you say is, well, just talk about like forgiving yourself and like what that looks like and why it's important.
Absolutely. So, the first thing that comes to mind, especially when it comes to forgiving ourselves, I feel like sometimes, some people journal, some people like writing, some people journal in their phone, etc. Whatever your outlet is. But my suggestion would actually be to write a letter to yourself,
Mm,
forgiving yourself, as if you're talking to your current self, right?
mhm,
So you write it down, you write a letter of forgiveness to yourself. And two options: you sit down in front of a mirror and you read it as if you're talking to yourself. You could take it up a level and read it in the presence of those that you love, but you're still talking to yourself. And
mm,
the reason why I suggest you reading it to yourself in front of a mirror in the presence of those that you love, one, you have support. And two, it's another way of just releasing it. It is, you are talking to yourself. It is a very intimate and personal moment. But when you allow other people that truly support you and love you in that space, you are, I think you feel more of a release, and you also may feel a little safer, in a
mm,
space that you have support. But
mm,
again, ultimately, you write a letter to yourself of forgiveness and you sit in front of a mirror and you read it to yourself. Um, I've done that before and didn't realize how powerful something like that could be. I did it in the presence of a group of people.
mhm,
And I got feedback as well. My feedback was that it was very motivational, it was very encouraging. Um, so that's my suggestion.
hmm.
I
So how
think
do
you'd be
you know
surprised.
what I'm sorry.
No, I think you'd be surprised of the impact that it would have.
I think that is a great technique. My first question that comes up with that is like, how do you know what to forgive yourself about? Some people don't know where to start with that. Um, and I also think about, there's a lot of people that are not self-aware, like they don't even really have a conscious relationship with themselves. Like, so how do you know what to forgive yourself for?
Those people that don't have a conscious relationship with themselves are not ready. They're just simply
Mm,
not ready. And so they have to wait
mm,
for the moment that they are mature enough and ready to walk on a journey of healing. That's just that. Now, where to start? Only you know why you're hurting,
mm,
and only you know what it is that you're carrying and why. So, for
mm,
example, I can forgive myself for not thinking that I deserved to be or walk in my healthiest self, right?
Okay.
I could for I forgive you, Angerrilynn, for carrying this weight much longer than you needed to. Stuff
Mm,
like that. Um,
mm.
you can forgive yourself for waiting for the next time and the next time and the next time to see that same person, you know, to only try to cause hurt on them the same way they caused hurt on you.
Yeah.
You can forgive yourself for that. You can
Mm,
forgive yourself for being in a moment of wanting to hurt someone the same way they hurt you. So
yeah.
there's a start. Only you know what it is that you're holding on to.
You're
You
right.
know, even though you're angry, you know the things that you need to let go.
That's
You
real.
know the things that you need to get off of your shoulders and release that weight. So that's
You're
how you
right.
do
You're right. You're right.
it.
You're right. I mean, that's the first place to start. Like, what pains you? What do you hurt about?
What
Who has hurt
hurt you?
you?
What did they do? And why did you feel that way? Why did you allow them to hurt you in the way that they hurt you?
Mm, mm.
Why did it matter to you that much? You know, you
You're
can
right.
you can think about those things and think of ways to forgive yourself for
Yeah.
allowing that person to do all the things that they did, for allowing um, you to continue to be stressed and hurt over and over again. Although, especially for someone, a lot of times people only did one thing, or was it just in one moment, and people carry that for the rest of their lives. Oh, I'm not talking to that person because they did this, that, whatever, and they carried that grudge for the
Yeah.
rest of their lives. You know what? As I'm talking, I find moments like that more of a lesson.
Hmm.
If someone did something or said something to me that I feel was unnecessary, which is really my way of saying things, if I feel
Yeah.
like it was unnecessary, but they hurt me, or I feel like they tried to hurt me, or whatever the case may be,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm not. It's just it's not worth it. It's not worth my time.
Mm. I,
Like I, it's
I don't
not.
like I don't like when things are unaddressed.
I understand, and so they say everything doesn't have to be addressed, but if it's a situation where if you have an opportunity to say something, and most it should really be done in the moment. And even if it's not done in the moment, I always just say, if you have to say something, take a moment, step back, think about it, you know, from both sides if possible, and then take your approach.
Mm,
Let them know what they did, how it hurt you, and no matter what the response is, the moment you're willing to say something, you have to be willing to let it go, because you may not get the response that you're looking for. You may never get an apology either. And
that part.
even if you get an apology, is it the apology that you're looking for? Is it the apology that's going to release that hurt moving forward?
Mm,
It may not be.
that makes sense.
So
Yeah,
you might be holding on to something and waiting for something you will never get anyway.
you're right. Because there are instances where you need to create your own closure,
Yeah,
right? Um,
absolutely.
I think that's what I'm doing right now. I'm creating
Mm,
my own damn closure.
you
Um,
do.
I see that point, and I definitely could forgive myself for having the lack of self control when that violation hits. It's like, that 0 to 100 is not
Mhm.
always the best reaction, right? Like you said, it's not worth it. We have another comment from Bird.
What we got? Okay. You want me to get it?
Yeah, may you?
Okay. Jaquita says, I personally think that forgiving yourself is a start. to forgiving others, because
Mm,
a lot of anger that we carry is anger at ourselves, with angry with ourselves for allowing someone to hurt us. Fe- and I think she means makes us feel that way. And I feel like that it starts with you and forgiving you, because when we do that, it allows us to clear our hearts and our minds and to be able to see the whole picture of things. Also, when
mm,
you could give yourself, when you forgive yourself, you allow other people in when you're cluttered with anger and unforgiveness. Now that makes sense. You get what she's saying? You're allowing people in your space. You're allowing people in a negative space, right? So you're not clear enough, really.
mm,
What I'm saying, you're not clear enough to allow other people in your space, because you're carrying the burdens and the hurt and the unforgiveness of someone else that has crossed your path.
mm.
So you're holding on to this anger. You're not forgiving the other person, and you're allowing other people into your lives. You can't have, I personally feel like you can't have a clear and fair relationship really with anybody else, because you're holding on to a grudge from somebody else. You're going to carry that with you every single person you meet, because you're going to be guarded.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of assuming the next person is going to do the same thing that the five other people did in
Right.
my previous journey, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
I used to just wait for people to fuck up because I
Yeah.
know that, you know what I'm saying? But I don't think that way anymore.
Mm.
I allow people the same opportunity until you mess that up. And when you mess it up, it's okay. I'm just going to move on.
Yeah.
And I'm that person that, for the most part, eliminates the negativity. I cannot, and I will not. I'm not willing to carry that along with me. I'm way too I'm more important than somebody else's baggage, what they got going on. Yeah, they got to figure that out.
I mean, it just makes so much sense, and I understand. Like one of my great aunts, rest her soul, she tries to like she tried to really get me to have this understanding, and she always used to say, keep a clean heart. You keep a clean heart. Don't worry about what they do to you. You have to think about what you do to others, because that's your judgment day. Like when you're ready to meet God, you get to, be clear about how you've treated someone else regardless of what they've done, because whatever they've done, they got to answer to that, you
Right.
know, with their relationship with God as well. And so the story she used to tell me that people used to do to her, and then like she'd just be loving towards them. It just made me want to throw up. But like, but
I get
I'm
it.
I'm really trying to turn like a new leaf. I think that this makes so much sense, because if I think about anger in a physical sense, like if it was like something that I carried and I had all, like, say if they were like balls.
Right.
I don't know if that's
They're
probably shouldn't use balls
like
as an
weights.
example, but
They're like
that's
dumbbells.
what I'm thinking about. Okay, let's go with dumbbells. Carrying balls. So like if I had these dumbbells, and they represented anger, right? And the more I held on to it, that's called a grudge. And then for each person that I accumulated a dumbbell for as I walk through this life, how heavy is that? Right? I think that we're not taught to commodify anger and make it a physical thing. It's just this invisible whatever, the emotion and the thoughts, they're not really physical things,
Right. Yeah.
but in actuality, it is, because it's energy, right? So it
Mhm.
does matter. So I see if I'm carrying all these things with me and I'm going into a relationship, it's probably not helpful for the next person because I do need to
Yeah.
let that go. So
Well,
okay, y'all making sense to me. It's resonating. It's resonating.
good.
Oh my God.
So Daquita,
Yes.
she says, yes, I agree. Give the person the benefit of the doubt and allow them to mess up, and then you correct them, but don't hold what somebody else did to you against the next person. It's
Mm,
like you're blocking your blessings. You're blocking someone that truly, genuinely loves you to come in to give you the love that you deserve. Yeah, absolutely true. I agree with that.
yeah.
That goes for any relationship or anyone that crosses your path. You know,
Yeah.
I've learned myself that I have to give everyone a chance, and I do that now. Whereas before, mm-mm, I didn't do that. I wasn't willing to give people a chance because I wasn't willing to allow them to either disappoint me or hurt
Right.
me. Yeah, yep.
That's right.
But I can handle that now. Yeah,
Ugh, girl, you
somehow
learn.
I know how to handle it.
Oh, you're a champion. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna pull us back out again into a population question, and I understand that you've not experienced racism directly, so I am keeping that at the top of my brain. But there is a rhetoric that says, Black people as a whole are too forgiving. And like that is exactly why we're in the state that we're in now, where we're still, constantly violated in so many different ways. Or if you look at the racism totem pole, we're at the bottom still because we're too forgiving. Um, and some people say that we need to get angry. Therefore, it may mobilize us to do and have and be something different. What are your thoughts about that? You
that's
and the audience.
yes, that's a very good question. Have we not gotten angry? That's my question. Who says that we haven't gotten angry? My people, I'm gonna tell you something. My people destroyed the neighborhood, the very first neighborhood that I lived in, moving out of my mother's house. I lived in the apartment complex that Mike Brown got shot in.
Mm,
St. Ferguson, Missouri was destroyed.
yeah.
Destroyed. Unfortunately, what we do is we do destroy our own, we destroy the neighborhoods that we live in, you know. But I feel like we have gotten angry. I feel like we have um, made a footprint. Now, is that the way to do it? No,
Mm,
but I cannot agree that we have not done. I feel like we do get angry. I don't feel like we allow these things to be done. I don't feel like we are turning the other cheek and saying, oh, I forgive them for doing this in a way that allows them to keep doing what they're doing. I disagree with that.
mm,
Um, because we gonna speak out, we gonna be seen.
mm,
Yeah.
hmm.
But I feel
You're right.
like, what so this is the other thing. There's nothing that we and in most of those situations, there's nothing that we have done to cause the brutality and the violence and the killings outside of the color of our skin.
Mhm,
Beyond that, it has nothing to do with us as people, as a person. It is the
mhm,
hatred of the person that is, it is the hatred of the aggressor. It is the hatred of the,
mhm.
you know, um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know that I agree completely with that
Yeah.
statement. We
Makes
make some noise. We make a lot
Yeah.
of noise.
I agree with you on that. And I think I understand the sentiment, but it's incomplete. because like what you stated was like, okay, yeah, we get angry, but we'll go do something that's totally destructive to ourselves, really.
Yeah.
How are we channeling anger? Because I still believe that anger is necessary. But I think a fleeting anger is necessary. It's not something that you want to carry. Like, anger is a part of the human experience, and we need to be open to our emotions because we're human beings, right? And
Exactly.
beingness is the characteristics of motion, of us being. It's an action word. Um, so, if we are angry, I think that we are to process that, but then the point would be to mobilize it and put it in a constructive manner. So like, I understand us being angry and looting and all that good stuff, but then we're right back at square one because so what? Now what? Right. So
Hmm.
I do agree with that. And then the forgiveness piece. I think that maybe if I had to speculate, that us as a people need to forgive ourselves a bit more. I think that some of us could use some building of self esteem and self love with ourselves, as an individual, but also as a collective. We can also use some training in what community looks like as well, because we've seemed to lose that principle.
Hmm.
But yeah, I also agree with that sentiment. So I'm glad that you did comment on that.
Yeah.
Um,
And just
Bird.
real quick, I see the other comment, but just real quick, there are steps in forgiveness, you know what I mean? And I definitely think that one of those steps are honoring our emotions. Like, we have to recognize the emotions that we have. And anger is okay. There's nothing wrong with anger. It's just about how we express that anger.
Mm,
I feel like we can release anger in healthier ways, obviously, but again, one of the important steps of forgiveness is to honor your emotions, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I used to try to hold those back, and that didn't work either because it just caused illness.
Yeah.
Bird, you are funny as hell. Yeah.
Daquita says, yes, we have gotten angry because I keep my fold up chair with me everywhere I go. Yes, we know what that means. That
Come
white
on,
fold up
Alabama
chair.
bra.
We
Come
stay
on,
ready. We
come
stay
on.
ready.
I'm with it for real. Um,
Okay.
yes, you are right. You are right. I want to let's get into the impact of forgiveness. I do believe I want to get into two things: the impact of forgiveness, and also some practical ways that we can start to walk the path. Because I do believe if we as individuals and a collective on this planet were to practice forgiveness as a principle, there our world could be a better place, right? Even with wars, probably maybe that wouldn't exist if we were in a forgiving space. So that's one thing. But number two, I'm also learning in this journey that forgiveness is not a one time thing. I am learning to put it in my daily practice because every day that I'm interacting with people, they're going to do some fuck shit. Like, and it's going to cross a boundary. Um, and I don't want to go to bed angry thinking about that. So I am thinking, like, at the end of the night, to start incorporating, okay, what I got angry about, and addressing that and letting it go, even down to these ATL drivers, like the way that people drive out here, I'd be
That's a
wanting to,
whole nother.
girl, I'd be wanting to lose my shit.
That's a whole
Um,
other subject.
but that be like I be like activated, you know what I'm saying? And that's something that I need to put into practice and keep conscious at the forefront of my mind. That's why when my dad would do some crazy shit, excuse me, I don't want to say crazy, some fuck shit, I was able to get, and be pume because I wasn't really practicing it. It is a nurturing. You have to think about the muscle memory of the pain that I've carried for so long. That's much stronger than the healing part of it. So I need to
Yeah.
continue to nurse that. All right, I said a whole lot, but I do want to get your thoughts on what you think the impact of forgiveness is once you're walking into it. And if you could provide us some different techniques that you think. I know you've mentioned a few with mirror work and writing the letter, but I just want to get your thoughts since we're going to wrap up soon.
Absolutely. So the impact of forgiveness, right? So obviously you'll be freeing yourself of the hurt. We allow those things to really bind us. Like it's almost like having a stress that you just cannot release or you're not willing to release, and this is all stuff, from the past, you
Mm,
know, it becomes things of the past, you know, how long are we willing to carry that again? So once we drop those things off, even the letter, you can burn the letter, you can flush it down the toilet, let it
mm,
go. Once it's gone, it's gone.
yeah.
And even if it's a day, even if it has to become a daily practice, you take a piece of paper, you write it down and burn it, or again,
Mm,
flush it down the toilet. It's gone. You
yeah.
know, it's something that you sometimes physically have to do to let things go. Instead
Yeah.
of just thinking about things, instead of just allowing it to occupy space in our mind, sometimes you have to physically do things that helps our mind let things go, you know. Um,
Correct.
so yeah, you can go a little bit further with the letter itself. Um, but of course, another impact is just being able to move forward in a much better light. You know, just like someone said in the comments, it's the quality of life. Like, what is your quality of life
Mm,
when you're walking around with so much anger,
mm,
so much hate, so much animosity because you've been hurt?
right.
And again, those are all valid feelings and emotions. And again, we can honor those and recognize those feelings,
Yeah.
but we have to get to the healing part of it. We have to get to our own peace because that
Mm,
is so important. We are way more important than the other person that hurt us.
mm,
All shapes and forms, no matter what the situation is. You have to put
right.
yourself first, because that person is not going to make sure that you're okay,
Yep. You said it.
you know.
Better
So
preach.
yeah, we have to just get to our peace and get to a healthier space. And I promise you, you feel so much better when you're able to release that weight off of you. Your
Yeah.
mood will change.
Yeah.
Your outlook on life will change. You'll have a better outlook on life. Again, we won't be so worried about the things that we won't be so worried about the next thing that someone's going to do or the next person that's going to hurt us. We can release that before it even starts, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, that's real talk right there. Thank you for sharing that. And one of the words that stuck out to me that I need to maybe put into an affirmation so that I remember is the peace, right? Peace, peace, peace. That is such a buzzword, and an important piece, as well. Because, like, do I want to choose anger or do I want to choose peace? And that quality of life, thanks, Dana, for that. It's very important. So peace is a good hot word, but also compassion. I think that has been such a pivotal technique for me to start to really walk into that forgiveness. Because there was a time where I was unwilling to be compassionate. But now it's really the perspective change that I need, because if I do put it into the example of my dad and I, when I'm thinking of, what this person, like, the life that he's had, and how did he grow up, and if he knew better, he'd do better, and just think about living in his skin. And when I start to have compassion for him as a human being who was not perfect, it's an easier, pill to swallow when it comes to forgiveness. So I will mention, like, compassion and peace is very key in this forgiveness walk. And also to everybody who's listening, like, you have a relationship with everything, you know. So even if it's God that you feel like you need to forgive, because there's some people that will blame God for, you know, taking a relative they're you know, they've passed on. Like, I used to be mad at God because I don't have my mom here anymore, you know. So just having a conversation with God, or writing the letter, like you stated, it's like such a great practice and technique. I think that is it. Are there any like last words that you want to impart to the people?
Yes, so back on, we talk about God. Pray,
Mm,
pray, have those conversations with God, your God, whoever your God is. You pray, you have those conversations. The other thing is, you have to ask yourself, has anyone had to forgive you for something that you've done?
mm, right,
Has anyone had to forgive you for something that you've done? Right? More than likely, the answer is yes. I don't care who you ask the question to. More than likely, someone has had to forgive us for doing something, saying something, hurting them.
right.
We have to be willing to do the same thing. People have forgiven us. We have to forgive the people around us, or the people in our lives, or the people that come along in our journey. So we're no better, greater than anyone else. Right.
That's right. And we don't, and I want to state that, like, we don't have to actually be in communication with the person to forgive them. You know, you don't have to go back and talk to them directly. It's for you, as Angerrilynn has stated at the top of this live here. Um, Are you going to be doing any like work on this? Like, should we be following you? What's going on in your world?
So I tell you what, so I'm an open book, right? So if anyone has like follow-up questions, wants to talk to me, I don't have a specific page for this, but I always make myself available. So therefore you can look on Facebook. It's my name on Facebook is Angerrilynn Bay. You see my name in like below my picture right there. It's spelled that way, and then BAE. There's no space. But you can just inbox me if you have questions about it. Again, I'm an open book. I'm always down for a good, healthy conversation. Um, and I mean, if you've found that some of this helps you, then I'm always willing to help people.
Yes, and she's amazing, y'all. Like she's just such a calm spirit, and she's able to walk you through point A to point B, whatever challenge you're going through. And I will also say that she's such a great advocate on the topic of diabetes as well. So if any of you are going through this condition, she's really supportive in that realm as well. I want to thank you for being here and being open and willing to share your story and your gems with us. You are so appreciated, and I love you dearly. So, yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I love you even more.
Thank
I've
you. I'm
enjoyed this. Thank you
very
so
grateful.
much. And thank
Um,
everyone that joined us and participated and commented and all that good stuff.
Yes, I want to absolutely thank everybody for their comments too. If you all are wanted to continue following me, I will be doing some other lives. I probably will be bringing Angerrilynn back too. I am at the Inclusion Lady, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. I said YouTube, right? You can find me there. And I also have like a forgiveness group. It's not a lot of action in there right now. It's just a bunch of memes because, like, in quotes rather, because there's a lot of people who they're on their own stage, their own in their own stages of forgiveness. Some people are ready to jump out there, some people aren't. But the encouragement is supportive, and I just really believe in healing in communities. It's like thebomb.com.
Yeah.
All right, I am going to sign off, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Until next time.
Thank you, Crystal.
See y'all. Bye.